The orbital station hung like a jewel above Proxima Centauri, its crystalline spires catching the light of the red dwarf star. Inside the grand chamber, representatives from 47 species sat in tiered seats that spiraled upward toward a domed ceiling that displayed the swirling galaxy above. This was the heart of galactic civilization, where laws were written and fates decided. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the massive doors, her footsteps echoing on the polished floor. Behind her, 12 human delegates followed in precise formation. They wore simple black suits, a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and biological displays of the other species. Sarah carried a data tablet under her arm and wore an expression that revealed nothing. The Vrex High Chancellor sat at the center of the elevated platform, his crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. To his left, the Keth Ambassador's 6 arms gestured in complex patterns as he conversed with neighbors. On the right, the Ashiri representative's large eyes glowed faintly as she maintained telepathic contact with her homeworld. The human delegation approaches, the Chancellor announced, his voice resonating through translation devices worn by every attendee. We acknowledge your presence, though this session was not scheduled to hear human grievances. Sarah stopped at the speaker's circle, a platform that rose from the floor. With respect, Chancellor, we requested this emergency session 6 weeks ago. The Council agreed to hear us today. Yes, the Keth Ambassador interrupted, his translator rendering his clicking language into standard galactic. You have 15 minutes. We have important matters to discuss afterward. Holographic displays materialized above the chamber, showing trade route maps, resource allocation charts, and technology sharing agreements. For 80 years, humanity has been a member of this council. We have followed every regulation, paid every fee, and contributed to every mutual defense initiative. Yet we have been systematically excluded from opportunities granted to other species. She gestured, and the hologram zoomed to show major trade routes. These 12 commercial corridors generate 70% of the galaxy's trade revenue. Human vessels are prohibited from 6 of them, and heavily taxed on 4 others. Meanwhile, species who join the Council after us operate freely. The juvenile species protocols, the Chancellor said smoothly. Your species achieved faster-than-light travel only 80 years ago. These restrictions exist for your own protection. Protection? Sarah's voice sharpened. The Kelrath achieved FTL 93 years ago. They have full trade access. The Trill accomplished it 72 years ago. They have unrestricted commercial rights. She advanced the hologram. Here are the Council records proving this. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several delegates leaned forward, studying the data. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we have been denied access to the ancient technology archives. Every request has been rejected under the claim that humans lack sufficient maturity to study precursor artifacts. The hologram shifted to show archive access logs. Yet the Brennics were granted access after only 40 years of Council membership. The Yalaron after 35 years. The Ashiri representative's voice echoed directly in everyone's minds, a sensation that always made humans uncomfortable. Those species demonstrated wisdom beyond their years. Humans remain violent, unpredictable. Your own history proves this. Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Our history of world wars ended over 2 centuries ago. The Keth were engaged in planetary genocide when they joined the Council. The Vrex conquered 17 systems by force before seeking membership. Yet somehow, human aggression is uniquely concerning. The Chancellor's crystalline structure flickered with colors that indicated irritation. You overstep, Ambassador. The Council's decisions are made with the good of all species in mind. Then explain this. Sarah triggered a new file. The holographic display filled with communication logs, financial records, and secret agreements. The chamber fell silent as delegates saw their own species' names attached to backroom deals and preferential arrangements. For 10 minutes, Sarah methodically revealed the corruption. Trade monopolies granted to species who bribed council officials. Technology sharing agreements that violated council law. Resources from non-member worlds seized and distributed among the elder races. And most damning, records showing that the council had discovered 3 precursor sites in human-controlled space and deliberately concealed this information. You knew there were ancient ruins in our solar system, Sarah said quietly. You knew about the structures on Europa, the vault on Mars, and the derelict ship in the Kuiper Belt. You sent covert teams to study them and kept us in the dark about our own territory. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted at each other in a dozen languages. Some demanded to know if their own systems had been similarly infiltrated. Others called for Sarah's immediate expulsion. The Chancellor's voice boomed through the din. Silence. When order grudgingly returned, he fixed his gaze on Sarah. You have made serious accusations. If you cannot prove these claims beyond what you have shown, you will face consequences. I already transmitted all evidence to every news network in Council space, Sarah replied calmly. By now, citizens on 400 worlds are watching this same information. The proof speaks for itself. She stepped closer to the platform's edge. Humanity has one simple demand. Grant us full council privileges immediately. No more restrictions, no more special protocols, no more lies. Treat us as the equals we have earned the right to be. The Chancellor conferred with the other senior delegates. Their discussion lasted only moments. Your demand is rejected. Furthermore, for this breach of diplomatic protocol and the unauthorized release of classified information, we are imposing immediate economic sanctions. All human trade vessels will be barred from council stations until you make formal apologies and pay appropriate fines. Sarah had expected this. The council never admitted fault. They doubled down, always. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a sealed document. Then I am authorized to deliver this on behalf of Earth and all human colonies. She placed it on the speaker's platform. Humanity withdraws from all council treaties effective immediately. We will honor existing private contracts, but all governmental agreements are void. You cannot be serious, the Keth ambassador sputtered. You will be isolated, cut off from galactic civilization. We'll manage, Sarah said. She gestured to her delegation, and they turned as one toward the exit. This is foolishness, the Ashiri's telepathic voice thundered in their minds. You are children playing at politics. Return to your seats, and we may show mercy. Sarah stopped at the threshold and looked back. The entire galaxy was indeed watching this moment, just as she had planned. Her next words would be heard on every world, by every species. We came here seeking justice, and found only arrogance. We asked for partnership, and received contempt. You built a system that benefits the strong, and crushes the weak, and you enforce it through fear. Her voice remained steady, but her eyes burned with intensity. Humanity will not beg for scraps from your table anymore. We're done here. You will regret this, the Chancellor warned. Without the Council, you are nothing. Sarah smiled. You're about to find out how wrong you are. The human delegation walked out of the Grand Chamber. Behind them, the massive doors sealed shut with a resonance that echoed like thunder. On 1,000 worlds, citizens watched the broadcast and wondered what would happen next. The elder races had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 20 years. They had no idea what was coming. They would learn soon enough. The first week after the walkout, the Council waited for humanity to come crawling back. High Chancellor Vrex told his inner circle that humans were emotional creatures who made rash decisions. Give them time to realize their mistake, he advised, and they would return with apologies. The second week, human colonies stopped responding to Council communications. Trade ships from Earth that had been regular visitors to Council stations simply disappeared from shipping lanes. At first, The council assumed it was a temporary protest. Then the silence stretched on. By the fourth week, something strange began happening across the galaxy. The first incident occurred in the outer reaches, where council law barely reached. A Keth merchant convoy carrying valuable minerals was ambushed by pirates as it traveled through the Varos sector. The pirates had attacked these routes for years, and the council's response was always slow. Local species paid protection money, or hired mercenaries. But this time, the pirates never completed their attack. The Keth captain reported that unidentified warships appeared from nowhere, moving with impossible speed. The pirates were destroyed in less than 2 minutes. When the merchant captain tried to hail the mysterious vessels to offer thanks, he received only static. The ships vanished as quickly as they had appeared. 3 days later, another pirate base was obliterated in the Kresh system, then another in the Talvor Nebula. Within a month, 17 known pirate operations had been completely wiped out. No warnings, no survivors, no negotiations, just debris fields and silence. Council military intelligence scrambled to investigate. They sent reconnaissance drones to the attack sites and found something disturbing. The weapon signatures didn't match any known technology. The tactical patterns suggested coordination beyond what any single species could manage. And most puzzling, several survivors from nearby stations reported seeing ships with no identifying marks, no registration codes, nothing. Ghost ships, the reports called them. The council convened an emergency security session. The Keth military commander presented his findings. We believe humans are conducting illegal military operations in neutral space. These attacks violate at least 12 council laws. Can you prove it? The chancellor asked. No direct evidence, the commander admitted. But who else would it be? The Ashiri representative had disturbing news of her own. We attempted telepathic reconnaissance, sending our agents to human colonies to read surface thoughts. All 15 agents report the same thing: mental barriers they cannot penetrate. Someone taught humans to shield their minds. Telepathic resistance required training and technology that humans supposedly lacked. Then the reports from fringe worlds started arriving. The Kelrath, a reptilian species that had always been on the council's lowest tier, suddenly requested a technology audit. When council inspectors arrived, they found fusion reactors operating at 93% efficiency. The best council technology managed 78%. Where did you acquire this? The inspector demanded. The Kelrath administrator's tail swished with what might have been amusement. Consultants helped us optimize our existing systems. Quite helpful they were. What consultants? We are not required to disclose our private business arrangements. Similar stories emerged across dozens of worlds. The Trill, an insectoid species, reported agricultural yields that defied their planetary conditions. The Norum discovered new mineral deposits using survey techniques they claimed to have developed themselves, though the methods showed sophistication far beyond their previous capabilities. When pressed, these species said nothing incriminating. But council intelligence noticed a pattern. Every species reporting these improvements had one thing in common. They had all sent diplomatic inquiries to Earth in the past 2 years. Inquiries that had been ignored at the time, or so everyone thought. The council sent an official delegation to Earth, demanding answers. 3 diplomatic vessels approached the human homeworld, broadcasting requests for dialogue. They were met by a defense fleet that had somehow tripled in size since the walkout. A human officer appeared on their screens. His uniform was different from before, sleeker and more militaristic. This is Commander Torres of the Terran Defense Force. You are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately. We demand to speak with your government, the Vrex diplomat insisted. Your demands mean nothing here. You made your position clear at the Grand Chamber. We made ours clear when we left. There is nothing more to discuss. The Council will not tolerate this disrespect. Torres's expression didn't change. You have 10 minutes to clear our border. After that, we will remove you by force. Your choice. The diplomatic vessels retreated. The incident made headlines across Council space. For the first time in recorded history, humans had forced Council ships to back down. Meanwhile, in the shadows between stars, humanity was busy. On a barren moon in the Barnard star system, construction crews worked around the clock. Humans labored alongside Kelrath engineers, Trill technicians, and members of 40 other species. They were building something massive, though Council spy satellites couldn't get close enough for clear images. Every probe sent to investigate was gently but firmly destroyed by automated defense systems. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in what would become the main assembly hall, watching welders fuse metal beams 300 meters above her head. Beside her, a Trill supervisor consulted holographic blueprints with compound eyes that processed information faster than human vision. "We are ahead of schedule," the Trill clicked, its translator rendering the sounds into words. "The station will be operational in 3 months. "Good," Sarah replied. "We need everything ready before the announcement." A Kelrath diplomat approached, his scales rippling with concern. "Ambassador, are you certain about this path? The Council has resources we cannot match. If they commit to total economic warfare—" "They won't," Sarah interrupted. "They're already losing control, and they don't even realize it yet. Every day we stay silent, more species start wondering if they need the Council at all. Every pirate we eliminate, every technology we share, every world we help, it all adds up. But the risk is worth it." Sarah turned to face him fully. "How long has your species paid unfair tariffs? How many generations of Kelrath have been treated as second-class citizens? The Council had centuries to do the right thing. They chose to maintain their power instead." The Kelrath's tail moved in a gesture of agreement. "Truth, we have waited long enough." Sarah looked out at the construction. In 3 months the galaxy would see what humanity had built in secret. They would learn that the walkout had been just the beginning. On Earth, deep in a military facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, scientists studied the artifacts recovered from Europa and Mars. The precursor technology was incredible, far beyond anything the Council had shared. But it wasn't the technology itself that excited the researchers. It was how well human thinking adapted to understanding it. "We see patterns they miss," Dr. Amara Okonkwo explained to the military observers. "The elder races are set in their ways. They look at this technology and try to make it fit their existing knowledge. We look at it and ask what new things become possible." "How long until we can replicate it?" a general asked. "We already are," Dr. Okonkwo smiled. "The question isn't replication anymore. The question is improvement." Across human space, factories operated at full capacity. Shipyards that had been building commercial vessels for decades now produced warships, not to start a war, but to ensure that humanity would never be vulnerable again. The Council thought humanity's silence meant weakness. Humanity was simply too busy to waste time talking. In the Grand Chamber on Proxima Centauri, the Chancellor reviewed reports with growing unease. Trade revenues were down. Several member species were questioning Council policies openly. The military's failure to identify the source of the pirate attacks was embarrassing. Worst of all, intelligence suggested that humans were meeting secretly with non-Council species, building alliances, sharing technology, creating alternatives to Council systems. "They are trying to undermine us," the Keth commander concluded. "Then we must remind the galaxy who holds true power," the Chancellor decided. "Prepare a demonstration, something that will show what happens to those who defy Council authority." The order was given. The Council would make an example of someone. They would prove that humanity's defiance was temporary madness. They had no idea that humanity was counting on exactly this reaction. The invitation arrived simultaneously on 643 worlds. It appeared on communication networks, broadcast screens, and personal devices in a coordinated release that bypassed every security protocol the Council had implemented. The message was simple and direct. You are invited to witness the founding of the Terran Coalition, Barnard's star system. 7 days from now, all species welcome, no requirements, no restrictions. Come see what cooperation looks like when everyone has an equal voice. Below the message was a location, a time, and a single image that made Council analysts gasp. It showed a space station so massive it dwarfed even the Grand Chamber. The structure gleamed in the light of Barnard's star, its elegant design blending aesthetics from dozens of different architectural traditions. Impossible, the Keth commander breathed. A station that size would take decades to build. They have been busy, the Ashiri representative observed, her telepathic voice carefully controlled. We underestimated their determination. The Chancellor watched the image with narrowed eyes. This is a provocation. They cannot simply create their own galactic body. The Council has stood for 3,000 years. Perhaps that is precisely why they are doing this, the Ashiri suggested. They see our age as stagnation rather than wisdom. Should we send representatives? A junior delegate asked. Absolutely not, the Keth commander snapped. We do not legitimize rebellion by attending. But curiosity proved stronger than pride for many species. When the appointed day arrived, over 200 vessels from non-Council worlds gathered at Barnard's star. Even some Council species sent unofficial observers, though they tried to keep this quiet. The station was more impressive in person. It rotated slowly in space, generating artificial gravity through spin, rather than expensive gravity plating. Docking bays could accommodate 100 ships simultaneously. Power readings suggested fusion reactors, far more advanced than standard models. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the main assembly hall, watching as delegates from 53 different species took their seats. The room was designed as a circle, with no elevated platforms or hierarchy of positions. Every species sat at the same level, facing the center. When the last delegates arrived, Sarah stepped to the center platform. Holographic cameras captured her image and transmitted it across the galaxy. Billions watched, including every member of the Council, whether they admitted it or not. Welcome, Sarah began, speaking standard galactic with confidence. Thank you for coming. Thank you for believing that a different path is possible. This station represents something the galaxy has not seen in 3 millennia. It is not built on the bones of conquered species or maintained through economic coercion. Every beam, every wire, every system was contributed willingly by species who believe cooperation benefits everyone. A Trill delegate raised a clawed appendage. The Council claims you are hoarding precursor technology. Is this true? Yes and no, Sarah replied honestly. We discovered precursor artifacts in our own territory. The Council knew about them and hid this information from us. We studied these artifacts and learned much. But unlike the Council, we are not hoarding knowledge. Everything we have learned, we are prepared to share with any coalition member. This caused excited murmurs. Access to precursor technology was supposed to be a Council privilege. A Kelrath representative stood. What are the requirements for joining this coalition? Can your species travel between stars? Do you agree to mutual defense and open trade? Will you treat other members as equals? If yes to all 3, you are qualified. That's it. No minimum technology level, no maturity assessments, no secret requirements that change based on political convenience. Surely there must be more, a cautious NORAM delegate said. What about disputes between members? We have drafted a charter. Sarah activated a hologram that displayed the document, translating it into every language represented in the room. Dispute resolution through mediation, trade conducted on transparent terms, technology sharing based on mutual consent, military cooperation for defense only, never aggression. And most importantly, every member gets 1 vote, regardless of size or power. The delegates studied the charter. It was remarkably simple compared to council law, which had accumulated thousands of amendments and exceptions over millennia. This seems too good to be true, an insectoid delegate from a species Sarah didn't recognize said bluntly. What do humans gain from this? Partners, Sarah answered. The galaxy is vast and full of dangers. Humanity learned that trying to navigate it alone makes you vulnerable. We believe a strong coalition of equals is safer and more prosperous than a hierarchy where most species serve the interests of a few. She paused. But I won't lie to you. We also gain leverage against the Council. They have treated humanity as inferior since we joined. We tried working within their system and failed, so we are building an alternative. If that offends you, please leave now. We only want members who join freely. No one left. Over the next 4 hours, the delegates asked hundreds of questions. Sarah and her team answered all of them, hiding nothing about human capabilities or intentions. They showed technical specifications for the station, explaining how collaborative engineering had achieved what no single species could manage alone. They demonstrated new propulsion systems developed by combining human theoretical physics with Kelrath materials science. They revealed agricultural techniques that merged Trill biological knowledge with human genetic understanding. The message was clear. Together they had accomplished in months what the Council had failed to do in centuries. At the end of the session, Sarah called for a vote. We are prepared to formalize the Terran Coalition today. Any species wishing to join as a founding member may sign the charter now. Those who want more time to consider may observe and decide later. There is no pressure, no deadline. 53 species signed that day. The Terran Coalition was born. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Citizens on Council worlds watched with mixed emotions. Some saw dangerous rebels undermining galactic stability. Others saw something they had forgotten existed: hope for change. The Council's response was swift and furious. They declared the coalition illegal under galactic law. They imposed sanctions on any species that joined. They threatened military action against the Barnard Star Station. But the threats rang hollow. 12% of the galaxy's population had just aligned with the coalition. Trade networks were already shifting, and the Council's intelligence reports painted a troubling picture of human military capabilities. Still, pride demanded a response. The Council could not appear weak. High Chancellor Vrex addressed the Grand Chamber with crystalline determination. The humans have gone too far. They reject our authority, steal our technology, and corrupt impressionable species with false promises. We must act decisively. What do you propose? The Queth commander asked eagerly. We will cut off the coalition from the galactic economy entirely. Any world that trades with them faces expulsion from Council markets. Any vessel that docks at their stations will be barred from Council space. We will isolate them until they collapse under their own dysfunction. It was a bold strategy. The Council controlled 60% of galactic trade routes and 70% of manufacturing capacity. Surely, the coalition could not survive being cut off from such resources. But the Council made a critical miscalculation. They assumed species joined the coalition out of naivety or manipulation. They never considered that many had joined because they were tired of Council dominance and had been waiting for an alternative. Within weeks, coalition trade networks formed. Resources flowed between member worlds with surprising efficiency. Human logistical planning combined with local knowledge created shipping routes the Council had never optimized. Technologies that the Council kept proprietary were adapted and improved through collaborative research. The economic war the Council hoped would last months ended in stalemate within 6 weeks. On Earth, Dr. Okonkwo presented her latest findings to the Coalition Science Council, a body representing researchers from all member species. The precursor artifacts suggest a civilization that valued cooperation above all else. Their technology is designed to interface with multiple biological and computational systems. They built for diversity, not dominance. A Trill scientist made an observation. Perhaps they failed because cooperation is idealistic. Perhaps the Council's hierarchical model survives because it reflects reality. Or, Dr. Okonkwo countered, perhaps the precursors succeeded so well they transcended the need for physical form, and we just haven't found evidence of what they became. The room fell silent as delegates contemplated this possibility. Sarah Chen watched the scientific exchange with satisfaction. This was what the Council had never understood. Humanity's strength wasn't superior technology or military might. It was adaptability. The willingness to learn from anyone, question everything, and try new approaches. The Council had centuries of experience and vast resources. But the Coalition had something more valuable: momentum. And momentum, Sarah knew, could change everything. The Council fleet assembled at the Draconis staging area, a military installation that had not seen full activation in 200 years. 300 warships gathered in formation, representing the combined might of the elder races. Battlecruisers from Vrex yards, carrier groups from Keth shipyards, and heavy destroyers from Ashiri military foundations. Admiral Gorath, a Keth commander with 6 decorated arms, stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominance. Around him, holographic displays showed every vessel in his armada. It was the largest fleet assembled in 8 centuries, and it was about to deliver a message humanity would never forget. The Council has shown remarkable patience, Gorath addressed his command staff. But patience without enforcement is weakness. We stand at the threshold of a new era. Let us proceed with the gravity and resolve this moment demands. These upstart humans and their naive followers need to understand that galactic order must be maintained. The target was the Coalition's primary trade hub at Sirius, a massive station that coordinated shipping for 30 systems. Destroying it would cripple Coalition logistics and prove that defying the Council had consequences. The fleet entered faster than light travel, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Intelligence reports suggested the Coalition had perhaps 200 warships total, scattered across their territory. Even if they concentrated their forces, the Council's numerical and technological advantage was insurmountable. They arrived at Sirius 6 hours later, dropping out of FTL in perfect formation. The trade station hung in space ahead of them, its docking bays filled with civilian vessels. A defensive fleet of 80 human warships moved to intercept, laughably outnumbered. Admiral Gorath broadcast on all frequencies. Attention Coalition forces. You are ordered to stand down immediately. Surrender the Sirius station and disband your illegal alliance within 48 hours, or face the full military power of the Galactic Council. This is your only warning. The response came from Admiral Takeshi Yamada, a human with gray hair and cold eyes. This is Coalition Defense Command. You have entered sovereign territory without authorization. You have 12 hours to withdraw beyond the Sirius exclusion zone. After that, you become legitimate military targets. Gorath's translator struggled with the human's tone. Was that defiance or insanity? You are outnumbered nearly 4-1. Your vessels are inferior. Surrender now, and we may show mercy. 12 hours, Yamada repeated. I recommend you use them wisely. The transmission ended. Gorath turned to his tactical officer. Are the humans seriously refusing to surrender? Their ships are maintaining defensive positions around the station. Then we will teach them the cost of foolishness. All vessels prepare for. New contacts appeared on sensors. 20 more human ships dropped out of FTL behind the Council fleet. Then 30 more from above. 40 from below. Within minutes, the Council fleet was surrounded by over 200 Coalition vessels that had somehow approached without being detected, How is this possible? Gorath demanded. Our sensors should have detected their approach. Unknown, Admiral. Their stealth technology is far more advanced than our intelligence predicted. Gorath studied the tactical display. He still had numerical superiority, though not by as much as before. No matter. Prepare to engage. Show these primitives what real military power looks like. Admiral Yamada's face reappeared on every screen in the Council fleet. What he said next would be replayed on news broadcasts across the galaxy for years. Before we begin, I want you to understand something. Every captain in your fleet has a file. The displays shifted, showing detailed dossiers, names, service records, family information, home addresses. Captain Thoris of the Spear of Light, your mate's name is Solana. You have 3 offspring on Keth Prime, and your primary residence is in the Southern Crystalline District. Captain Vex of the Morning Star, you have 2 siblings in the Diplomatic Corps, and an aging parent in medical care on Vrex Station 7. Gorath felt something cold settle in his stomach as more files appeared. We know where every single one of you lives, Yamada continued, his voice utterly calm. We know where your families live. We know your daily routines, your favorite locations, your vulnerabilities. We have had operatives on your homeworlds for months, and you never noticed. This was psychological warfare beyond anything the Council practiced. It was also a violation of every rule of civilized conflict. If you attack, Yamada said, we will defend ourselves with extreme prejudice. And if this escalates beyond today, we will demonstrate what total war means to a species that still remembers our 20th century. We will show you what happens when humans stop being civilized. You would not dare, Gorath transmitted back. The Council would unite every species against you. Would they? Yamada smiled without humor. Half your former members are already in the coalition. The other half are wondering if you can actually protect them. But go ahead. Test us. Order your fleet to fire. See what happens. Gorath hesitated. His tactical officer was frantically analyzing the human ship positions. Admiral, their formation is perfect. Every angle of approach has overlapping fields of fire. If we engage, our initial casualties will be severe. How severe? 30 to 40% before we can establish superiority. Possibly more if their weapons are as advanced as their stealth systems. Gorath had commanded fleets for 40 years. He understood when tactical advantages evaporated. But pride and duty demanded he at least try. Prepare a limited strike. Target their command ship only. Show them we can. The tactical display lit up with warnings. Every human ship had simultaneously achieved weapons lock on Council vessels. Not distributed targeting, but concentrated focus. 20 human ships targeting each Council vessel with enough firepower to overwhelm any defensive screen. They would be destroyed in the exchange, Gorath's tactical officer said. Every single ship. That is acceptable to us, Yamada's voice confirmed, somehow hearing their private discussion. Is it acceptable to you? Because we are comfortable with mutual destruction if that is what you choose. Are you? The bluff, if it was a bluff, was perfect. Gorath had no way to know if the humans were serious. But their positioning, their weapon locks, and their demonstrated intelligence capabilities suggested they absolutely meant every word. Admiral, his communication officer interrupted, we are receiving urgent messages from multiple captains. They are expressing concern about the humans' intelligence on their families. Several are requesting permission to withdraw. Gorath's mandibles clicked in frustration. In 30 seconds, the humans had undermined his fleet's cohesion without firing a shot. If he ordered an attack now, would his captains even obey? The Council will not forgive this humiliation, Gorath transmitted to Yamada. The Council created this situation when they decided force was the answer to legitimate grievances, Yamada replied. You came here to destroy a civilian station and kill thousands of innocents to prove a point. We came here to defend our allies. History will judge which of us acted honorably. For a long moment, the two fleets held position. Gorath ran probability calculations in his mind. Even if he won the immediate battle, the political cost would be catastrophic. Council forces killing civilian station workers would drive more species to the coalition. And if the humans made good on their threat to escalate beyond conventional warfare, to target families and civilian infrastructure, it would be a war without end. Fleet order, Gorath finally commanded. All vessels, prepare to withdraw to minimum safe distance. Admiral, his tactical officer protested. That is an order. We are not prepared for this type of conflict. The Council fleet began pulling back. The human vessels tracked them but did not pursue. As Gorath's flagship turned to enter FTL, Yamada sent one final transmission. We disabled 73 of your ships during this standoff. Your crews never noticed. We used targeted electromagnetic pulses to fry specific systems. Non-lethal but effective. Your vessels can be repaired within a week. The tactical display confirmed the claim. Dozens of Council ships were reporting mysterious systems failures. We could have killed you all. We chose not to. Remember that when your leaders decide what to do next. The Council fleet jumped to FTL, retreating in disorder. The entire confrontation had lasted 17 minutes. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Yamada allowed himself a small smile. They had gambled everything on psychology and preparation. It had worked, but barely. His ships were not as invincible as he had implied, and the electromagnetic pulse systems had taken months to position in secret. But the Council did not need to know that. Across the galaxy, footage of the confrontation spread like wildfire. The mighty Council fleet turned back by a force a quarter their size. Species that had remained neutral suddenly saw the coalition as viable. Applications for membership flooded in. By the next morning, 12 more species had formally joined the coalition. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone knew it. 3 years after humans stormed out of the Grand Chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen returned to Proxima Centauri. The orbital station looked smaller than she remembered. Or perhaps the coalition station at Barnard Star had simply made everything else seem diminished by comparison. The Grand Chamber's entrance doors opened before her, the same doors she had walked through in defiance so long ago. This time, she carried no data tablet full of accusations. This time, she came as an equal. The chamber was less full than before. 19 species that once held council seats now sat in the coalition's assembly instead. The remaining 28 members watched her approach, with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. High Chancellor Vrex looked older, his crystalline structure showing stress fractures that caught the light. The Keth ambassador had been replaced after the Sirius incident. The Ashiri representative regarded Sarah with telepathic silence, her mental shields firmly in place. Ambassador Chen, the Chancellor began, his voice lacking its former certainty. The Council acknowledges your request for dialogue. We are prepared to discuss a possible framework for coexistence between our two organizations. Sarah took her position in the speaker's circle. Thank you, Chancellor. I appreciate the Council's willingness to meet. Before we begin, I want to clarify something important. The Coalition is not here to destroy the Council or seek revenge for past wrongs. We simply wanted what we always wanted: respect, partnership, and fair treatment. A younger Vrex delegate, one Sarah did not recognize, spoke sharply. You have violated Council law repeatedly. Your military actions at Sirius alone justify sanctions. Your fleet entered Coalition sovereign space and threatened civilian targets. We defended ourselves within established rules of engagement. If you wish to discuss violations, we can review the 327 instances of Council ships infiltrating Coalition territory over the past 2 years. The delegate fell silent. Everyone knew the Council's espionage efforts had failed spectacularly. Coalition counterintelligence was remarkably effective, combining human paranoia with Ashiri-taught mental shielding and Trill biological sensors. The Cath military commander, newly appointed, tried a different approach. What exactly does the Coalition want from this meeting? Normalization, Sarah said simply, trade protocols, diplomatic recognition, joint security arrangements in areas where our interests overlap. The galaxy is large enough for both our organizations. You expect us to simply accept your rebellion as legitimate? An older delegate demanded. I expect you to accept reality. The Coalition now represents 42% of the galaxy's population and 35% of its economic output. Those numbers grow every month. You can work with us or continue pretending we don't exist. One option benefits everyone. The other benefits no one. The Chancellor raised a crystalline hand for silence. You said the Coalition does not seek the Council's destruction, yet you actively recruit our members. You offer technological advantages we cannot match. You position yourselves as a superior alternative. Sarah considered her words carefully. We offer species a choice they did not have before. Some choose us, some remain loyal to you, many belong to both organizations now. The Brennics maintain council membership while also joining the Coalition. It works because both groups focus on cooperation rather than control. An idealistic view, the Ashiri representative's telepathic voice observed. But the galaxy has always been governed by power dynamics. The strong lead, the weak follow. Your Coalition attempts to deny this fundamental truth. Does it? Sarah gestured to the chamber's partially empty seats. Or does the Coalition simply distribute power differently? We have proven that collaboration between equals produces better results than hierarchical command. Your model worked for 3,000 years, but times change. Species expect more now. A junior delegate from a species Sarah recognized as Noram spoke hesitantly. My government has considered Coalition membership, but we fear abandoning the stability the Council provides. What guarantees can you offer? None, Sarah admitted, surprising everyone. The Coalition is 3 years old. We are still developing our systems, still learning how to govern effectively. We make mistakes, but when we do, every member has a voice in correcting them. That is our guarantee. Your voice matters as much as anyone else's. The Chancellor conferred quietly with his senior advisors. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted slightly. What specifically are you proposing? Sarah activated a holographic display, showing a draft agreement. Joint trade regulations in border systems. Mutual recognition of diplomatic credentials. A joint committee to address disputes between members of our respective organizations. Coordinated response to piracy and other criminal activities. Cultural exchange programs. Scientific cooperation on non-military research. She paused, and most importantly, an end to recruitment efforts in each other's core territories. The Coalition will not actively pursue Council members who show no interest in leaving. The Council will not interfere with species choosing to join the Coalition. This would formalize the division of the galaxy. This would formalize cooperation despite our differences, Sarah corrected. The division already exists. We are simply proposing we manage it peacefully. For 2 hours, they debated details. The Council delegates were skeptical, suspicious, and occasionally hostile. But they were also realistic. The military option had failed. Economic warfare had stalemated. Diplomatic isolation had pushed more species toward the Coalition rather than away from it. Finally, the Chancellor called for a recess. We must consult with our member governments. This is not a decision we can make lightly. Of course, Sarah agreed. The Coalition will await your response. As the session ended, the Ashiri representative approached Sarah privately, her telepathic voice directed only at the human ambassador. You have changed the galaxy, whether for better or worse, remains unclear. The Council has governed for 3 millennia because we maintained order. Your Coalition offers freedom, but risks chaos. Sarah met the alien's large eyes steadily. The council maintained order by suppressing alternatives. You never had to prove you were the best option, because there were no other options. That comfortable monopoly is gone. Now both our organizations have to actually earn our members' loyalty. And you believe that is better? I believe it is honest, Sarah replied. The question is whether the council can adapt to operating in a galaxy where they must compete for influence rather than simply wield it. The Ashiri was silent for a moment. You are more dangerous than we initially believed. Not because of your weapons or your technology, but because you genuinely believe in your ideals. Is believing in something dangerous? When those beliefs inspire others to question the natural order? Yes, extremely. Then, I suppose we are very dangerous indeed. The negotiations continued for 6 months. Hardliners on both sides resisted compromise. The Keth wanted military guarantees the coalition would not accept. Some coalition members wanted formal council apologies for past discrimination. These extreme positions were gradually moderated as pragmatists gained influence. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Brennics, who maintained membership in both organizations, proposed a joint crisis response to a natural disaster on a neutral world. Working together, Council and Coalition relief teams saved over 2 million lives. The cooperation was awkward and competitive, but it worked. Public opinion shifted. Citizens across the galaxy watched Council and Coalition forces coordinating rescue operations and asked why their governments could not maintain such cooperation permanently. The final agreement was signed at a neutral location, a small station in unclaimed space. No grand ceremonies, no triumphant speeches. Just representatives from 2 organizations acknowledging that the galaxy had changed, and they needed to change with it. On Earth, Sarah Chen gave a press conference in Geneva. Reporters from 300 worlds watched via holographic relay. This agreement is not surrender by either side, she explained. It is recognition that the galaxy benefits when we compete through innovation and service, rather than through coercion and control. The Council remains powerful and influential. The Coalition offers an alternative. Both can exist, both can thrive. A reporter asked the question many were thinking. Do you regret walking out of the Grand Chamber 3 years ago? Sarah considered this carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that we could not resolve our differences through dialogue alone. But I do not regret standing up for humanity's dignity and the dignity of every species that the Council treated as inferior. What happens now? Now we prove that our model works. The Coalition is still young. We have much to learn. But we have also proven that cooperation between equals can achieve remarkable things. Whether the Council chooses to learn from our example or dismiss it is up to them. In the Grand Chamber on Proxima Centauri, the Chancellor watched the press conference with unreadable emotions. Around him, senior delegates offered their assessments. She is right about one thing, the Ashiri representative observed. The galaxy has changed. We can either adapt or become irrelevant. The Council has survived for 3,000 years, a conservative delegate argued. We will survive this too. Perhaps, the Chancellor mused, but survival and relevance are not the same thing. The Coalition has reminded the galaxy that alternatives exist. We must now prove we deserve our position rather than simply assume it. On worlds across the galaxy, the agreement was received with mixed reactions. Some celebrated the end of tensions. Others worried about long-term implications. But most citizens simply appreciated that their governments were working together rather than preparing for war. In schools throughout Coalition space, children learned a new history. They learned about their grandparents' generation, the people who looked at an unjust system and asked a simple question. What if we just left? What if we built something better? The answer was still being written. The Coalition faced challenges the Council had overcome centuries ago. growing pains, internal disputes, the difficulty of maintaining unity among such diverse members. But they faced these challenges together, as equals, and that made all the difference. On a research station orbiting Europa, Dr. Amara Okonkwo made a discovery that would reshape understanding of the precursor civilization. The artifacts humanity had found were not remnants of a dead culture. They were gifts, left deliberately for younger species to find when they were ready. The precursors had not disappeared. They had transcended, moving beyond physical form into something the current galaxy could not yet comprehend. But before leaving, they had scattered their knowledge across thousands of worlds, hoping that someday younger species would learn cooperation rather than domination. They wanted us to find each other, Dr. Okonkwo explained to the Coalition Science Council. Every artifact is designed to be understood through collaboration. No single species has all the pieces. We need each other to unlock the full knowledge. A Kelrath scientist made an observation. Then perhaps the Council's failure was not in their governance structure, but in their assumption that one perspective could understand everything. And perhaps, a Trill researcher added, the Coalition's success will depend on whether we remember that lesson as we grow. Sarah Chen, now serving as the Coalition's Secretary General, stood before the assembly of 43 member species. She thought about the journey that had brought them here. The walkout, the silence, the risks, the battles avoided, and the battles won. We have built something remarkable, she told the assembly, but building was the easy part. Maintaining it, improving it, ensuring it serves all our people fairly. The Council had 3,000 years to perfect their system. They became complacent. We must never make the same mistake. A delegate raised a question. What if more species join? How large can the Coalition grow before it faces the same problems the Council did? I don't know, Sarah admitted. But I know we will face that problem together, with every voice heard and every perspective valued. That is our strength. Not our technology, not our military, but our commitment to genuine partnership. The galaxy watched the Coalition's early years with interest. Some predicted eventual collapse. Others saw the beginning of a new era. The truth, as always, lay somewhere in the middle. The Council adapted, slowly and reluctantly, but they adapted. They implemented reforms, granted more autonomy to member species, and began competing for loyalty rather than demanding it. Some species returned to the Council, appreciating its stability. Others remained with the Coalition, preferring its flexibility. Many belonged to both, seeing no contradiction in accessing the benefits each organization offered. And in the spaces between Council authority and Coalition influence, new ideas flourished. Smaller alliances formed. Independent worlds found they could negotiate from strength now that alternatives existed. The galaxy became more complex, more diverse, and ultimately more free. Humanity's legacy was not the technology they shared or the battles they won. It was the simple act of walking away from an unjust system and proving that something better was possible. They had reminded the galaxy of a truth that civilizations sometimes forget, that respect cannot be demanded, only earned, and that true strength comes not from dominating others, but from standing together as equals. The children who grew up in this new galaxy would never know the old certainties. They would navigate a more complicated universe, one where multiple paths existed, and choices mattered. It would be harder in many ways. It would also be better. And when they asked why the galaxy changed, the answer was always the same. Because humanity got tired of begging for respect, and decided to command it instead. Because one species said, no more, and had the courage to walk away. The galaxy had watched in terror as humans stormed out of the assembly. Now it watched in wonder as humans proved that terror had been misplaced. The real fear should have been of stagnation, of accepting injustice, of never daring to try something new. Humanity's gift to the galaxy was not technology or military might. It was hope. And hope, once ignited, is the hardest thing in the universe to extinguish.